I'm Connie.
And I'm Connie.
And we are Bad News Travels Fast. Today we want to talk a little bit about a serious subject. We want to just kind of talk about what happened to us or how we felt, after the murder of George Floyd. And so I would say for me, I was at work and the video came on. I listen to YouTube videos while I'm working, and the video came on, and this girl is talking to another girl, and it's like she's doing a FaceTime live or something like that. Mm-hmm. And there's a conversation going back and forth. So I'm busy with my hands. I don't really know what's going on. But when she's talking about this guy or whatever, I turn my video around and I can see what's happening to George Floyd. I had told myself that after Philando Castile, I told myself I wasn't watching no more videos.
That was wise.
Because that was very traumatic.
Yes.
The Philando Castile thing was... It broke me, and I was just struggling with that whole thing for a little while. And with the George Floyd situation, after seeing that, I was really traumatized. I probably cried for a few weeks straight, and I feel like it was like a Pandora's box had opened up, and all of a sudden, everybody is getting this revelation that there's racism in the world. And I don't even mean to laugh, but that just seems crazy.
Right.
To people who have dealt with racism on a regular basis, or even, it might not be one-on-one racism, but the system of racism, the systematic racism, the systems that we deal with, trying to buy a house, trying to get an apartment, just, the simple everyday things that people do, and just dealing with the discrimination of that. I feel like, we were like, our world, the whole world went into a shock from this one murder. And all of a sudden, everybody's aware that the racism is just enough is enough in the United States. And I think that we kind of had dismissed all the other times when people were murdered. Somebody may have been even murdered in their back, like they're running away murdered. And, we're saying things like, well, what did they do before they started running? The whole gaslighting thing.
Right.
And so I think all of that stuff compiled, it really came up to the surface that all those different things that were taking place, all the gaslighting taking place. And actually, what is gaslighting?
Right.
So we'll talk about that if you don't know what I'm saying. But we are now in a place where I feel like the murder of George Floyd has changed our world's life.
It has. And I think it's interesting that you say that. I think he was like the icing on the cake, so to speak, because we did have Ahmaud Arbery that happened, and then we have Breonna Taylor, and we have all these situations where people are killed, right? And they're not doing anything, unarmed, right?
Right.
And so in the past, it's been that, hey, I felt threatened. By what?
Right.
What was threatening you? Like, was it my skin? Is it my build? What was so threatening to you? And I think it was so hard. I don't watch the videos either because I just don't. I don't want to see that. But in the process of watching it, like, it was hard not to, because sometimes, like Bishop Jakes, he had like a clip of it when he was preaching about it, which I appreciated, because I think back to Emmett Till's mom, and she was like, I'm going to have an open casket. I want the world to know what they did to my son.
Yes.
Right? And so I think the exposure of it was really, really big. And I think it was important. But, also after that happened, I looked up the history of policing. Right?
Yes.
So the history of policing, they got people together to catch runaway slaves. And so when you caught them, either you killed them or you brought them back to their master. So after learning that, it made sense why they treat African Americans that way. It made sense why, we're killed without a trial. Because if you have the history, that was how the police system was orchestrated. That was kind of carried and taught by generations about this is what we do. And then what they did was they get unions to protect them. So if the police, a district or this police department is sued, right? Taxpayers' dollars, right? Because they have a bond with the bank. And the taxpayers' dollar goes to pay off the lawsuit. So they're not even penalized for what they've done. They get no precautions, no decrease in pay, right? And then even if they're fired, if they're in the union.
They're fired with pay.
They're fired with pay. But then they can get hired at another precinct. You wouldn't even know about it. So they got fired and everybody's like, oh, at least he got fired. But he'll get hired at another precinct and another district and we'll never even know that. So that is what's really been disheartening. It's like, wow, God, like, oh my goodness. And so it's just so sad because we get caught without a trial. Like I begin to cry. I have male nephews. Right? Who have had run-ins with police officers. Now I haven't experienced that, thank God. And, I think about the fear that is associated with it, right? If you drive and you get pulled over, it's like, oh my goodness, put your hands up. What we teach our kids, we teach them trauma. Put your hands up. Don't say nothing. Don't make any sudden movements. Do all of those things, and to be respectful, which I think that we should. But, our Caucasian counterparts are not taught to do that. Right? They don't have to. Right. You know what I'm saying? So the things we have to teach our kids, like, I don't want to have my niece and nephew walking around in fear that if I get pulled over, you know what I'm saying? Like my life is going to end. Right. Especially not for the people who's supposed to protect me. And we talked about this last podcast. We start bringing up everything they did wrong. Like everything you did before you got pulled over. It explains now why we killed you. Without a trial.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
We didn't even get to go. Whatever George Floyd may have done, he didn't even get to go to trial. Right? We don't even know what happened. And then I'm kind of really saddened when I hear comments like, well, we should figure out the whole story and we should find out both parts. What else do you need to find out when somebody is sitting on a man's neck? And he can't breathe. And he's handcuffed, can't swallow. So he's no longer a threat to you. Right.
And also, too, why don't you feel safe when you got 7 weapons? You got a stick, you got a gun, you got a taser, you got mace. What else you got?
You got handcuffs, right? So you make me
you got handcuffs. Right. I mean, you got a whole artillery with you. And you have one other person with you. How are you afraid with all this artillery? I'm not sure I'd be afraid because I'd be like,
they have a bulletproof vest.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that too. So really, what can someone who is unarmed do to you with all this weaponry? You understand what I'm saying? And so I don't understand the fear, the constant quote unquote fear of police officers. I shot him out of fear. What exactly are you scared of?
When you're running the other way?
And I'm wondering too what they're teaching them. Because, I have family that's police officers and I have family that's in the military. And one thing I know about military and police officers, we're called civilians because we're not them. They are signing up for a dangerous job. They are signing up for danger. When I go to be a police officer, I'm saying that I'm going to possibly come in contact with danger. And that's why I have all these things to protect me, right? Why are we comparing people to police officers? Like the one congressman who I guess spoke to LeBron James or somebody like that and was like, well, what about this police officer over here? That police officer signed up for that. He signed up for the possibility of getting murdered. Even when you're in the military, you sign up for the possibility of getting murdered. You know this already. You know this in your training. You know what I'm saying? That's why you have family that be so upset when a family member gets deployed somewhere because they know there's a possibility that family member might not come back. But a black person is not dangerous, and they didn't sign up to be dangerous.
They didn't sign up to be killed while operating a motor vehicle either.
We made them dangerous, and I think the media has been the major part of just the portrayal of black men, and the portrayal of black women as well. Like, we're just portrayed as like sexual. You know what I mean? Our president
loud and
calls,
ghetto.
Yeah, our president has called Kamala. I said her name right?
Yes.
I usually say Kamala, but I got it right. But our president has called her nasty, because we are portrayed as, women are portrayed as nasty. You know, like exotic in a sense, ready to do anything. And then we don't help the situation with our trends. So like, we have a trend of twerking, right? And so you've got all these videos of twerking, and then you have someone like our president, that's how he sees us. He doesn't see us as the people that are going out there and working hard and going to school and trying to do better with their families. And no, the whole world is not twerking. I mean, a lot of us are. But the whole world is not twerking.
But I think that stemmed from even back in slavery days. Like, we were so nasty, but master still raped us.
Oh, absolutely.
And did whatever he wanted with us.
That's right.
And then she got pregnant, right?
Right.
And then he didn't take care of the child, right? You know what I'm saying? So it was funny because I was listening to a Lecrae song, and he was talking about how, you know, the black women, like, were whores and everything like that because master raped us and then left the child. And he was like, absent fathers was taught to me before I was even born.
Come on.
I was like, dang.
Shout out to Lecrae.
Right. It was so real. Right.
Yeah,
because if I have a baby with master's not taking care of me. He's not in the house. Or even if I do have a family and the man is separated from the woman and the child. Right. That is an absent father. Right. And so what happens when every time a black man is killed, that makes an absent father in that child's life.
So are you saying, because, you know, you're a part of psychology, right? One thing we didn't say was, what does gaslighting mean? So let's address that. But also, are you saying that it is embedded in us to be absent of fathers in our community?
I think it is embedded in us, because one thing that I do, because I teach, and when I teach African American psychology, the first thing I start with is the Willy Lynch letter.
Okay.
Right. And so what I do to give it a good effect so they can understand the totality of what was happening, we read it aloud. Right. Ooh. So I read the first paragraph, and then different students take turns reading it aloud.
Wow.
And then, you know how I'm animated. So I pause and let's read that one more time. Right?
Oh, Lord.
So we could see, because some of the things we do with ourselves. I remember having a conversation with your son earlier today, and I was like, when something is incepted into you, when somebody gives you a thought, or the enemy, Satan, you can use Satan too, it gives you a thought, and you believe it, and now you take it on as your own thought.
Yes.
You run with it. Right? Whoever gave you the thought doesn't have to do anything else. Their work is done. Yeah. And that's what happened on the James River. Right. With the Willy Lynch letter. He told them, like, hey guys, y'all doing this, y'all wasting trees. No, turn the light against the dark. Turn the old against the young. That's why we have such disrespect for older people. Mm-hmm. Like, you know how to tell my kids, how dare you get up and curse out somebody else, an older person, and just treat them like that? Like, how dare you? Where did that come from? Right? Where is the honor and respect? And we're going to do something on what honor and respect is. But where did that come from? But it started back then. And then you have the mother as a primary nurturer, right? And then they put you out in front and make an example of you. Like, oh yeah, act out and I'll do this or worse. You know what I'm saying? So the repeated trauma of being dragged constantly behind a car, being beaten and whipped and stuff like that. And just different things. Even with the crack and cocaine epidemic, right? They put it in Harlem. Right? Where all the black people are, right? And then they jailed us for doing it, right? Because I'm from New York. And they jailed us for that reason. But we don't have no planes. No. We don't have a boat. Right. How did it get here? Right. Right? But then we're penalized. Even things we do with our young boys, the school of prison pipeline.
Oh yeah.
All of these things that affect our black men, right? So if the majority of them is in prison, right? The majority of them dead or whatever the issue is, where are the men to raise the boys and the girls?
Right.
Where is the family unit that we can talk about more depthly at another time? That's supposed to be strong together, where you have both parents talking and helping and showing them. Where is the daughter who can't, George Floyd has a daughter who's going to grow up without a father.
Yeah.
The father is the first male encounter. He teaches you how a man should treat you, how to be honored, how to respect yourself, all of those things, where he's no longer in that position. Yeah. Now, so it's just a lot of things that go on. So every time a black man is killed, and even black women, like, I'm not making small of that. It's like it takes something away.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it's so bad because now it's the norm now. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, I'm glad for all the men that take care of their kids. You're supposed to do that. You had them, right?
Right.
You laid them, had them.
Yes.
Right. You're supposed to take care of them.
Yes.
Regardless of what happens with you and the mother. Mm-hmm. Right? That has nothing to do with your child.
Yes.
But when we have these stigmas and when we don't see ourselves the way we should, right? How do you have pride and dignity with who you are when this is what you see?
Right.
And even the trauma you talked about with watching it. In psychology, we call that vicarious trauma. Right? Through you, I'm seeing it. Yeah. I wasn't there to experience it, but me watching it has caused me to be traumatized. Right. Because it's the vision that I get.
Yeah, I was a little shocked that I literally was mourning the loss of not only George Floyd and not even knowing the man, but just mourning the loss of life for all the people who were murdered by the hands of police because of the abuse of power. Mm-hmm. And I understand that sometimes they're going to make mistakes. Right. Police officers are going to make mistakes. Military, they're going to make mistakes at times. But for this to be consistent, and then for our government not to just back it up, like, hey, we're not doing this. We're not going to kill our citizens.
Right. We need someone in leadership to say that, right?
Right.
Because sometimes when something happens, you're looking for the person who is the leader to address it.
Right.
Right. Because we look up to you. You know what I'm saying? The way we set things up, there are people who voted for you to be in office. Right. And so we're looking for direction and for guidance, and we're not getting any.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When you think with leadership all over, like households was having conversations, but did the fathers sit down with their sons and discuss it? Right? Did leaders sit down and discuss it? As Christians, we had some leaders to address it and some that did not.
Right.
But it's a difficult conversation because racism is real. And we are not mad at individual people. We're mad at the system that has been created to keep us down. The systems that have been created and are still going on today. Right. We can't change something that has been embedded. We need to uproot it and get rid of it.
And although, because sometimes you hear people say, well, I've never experienced that. Mm-hmm. We also might not be the people that are experiencing discrimination on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. Let's say I live in a very nice area where black and whites come together and we don't have, all that discrimination. There's still a problem with the rest of the world.
Right. And we know it's not everybody, right? We understand that goes without being said. But when we're talking about a system and the ones who are wrong and the ones who know it's wrong and don't do anything. Yeah. And we think about the other officers that was there. The bystander effect, like you was there and you did nothing.
I think I don't understand what the whole, I don't know if it's training or what it is, but I don't understand why once they subdue a person, why they can't quickly get them up and into a vehicle. Why once somebody is handcuffed, why there's 5 people on top or 3 people on top of them and they want them to stop moving. How about they're handcuffed? Get off of them, pick them up, get them in the car. I don't really understand. So maybe one day we can just do research on police training one day, maybe. Mm-hmm. But I think the problem is the training. But also I think, how do you get rid of having it embedded in you to hate another race or to see another race as inhuman.
Inferior, right.
Inferior.
Right.
Our Constitution.
Yeah, we're going to have to really talk about that.
Right.
Because it wasn't written for us. Because if we're not seen as human,
right,
then all men are created equal doesn't apply to blacks.
No.
Right?
Right, because we were, 3/5, I think, human or something like that.
Right.
Right.
And so it's so bad. And, with those things, even the things that we celebrate, like, it wasn't really meant for us. So when the Constitution and our bylaws and all these things, our Declaration of Independence wasn't written to consider African Americans or women.
And that's another thing too. It's a whole different conversation. But we call ourselves African Americans, right? But aren't we just Africans?
Well,
I mean, if we were brought over here from Africa, and those people are called Africans, regardless of whether we were raped or not. Because it's almost like we were raped and we got master's blood in us.
So that makes us not
African. Makes us not African in a sense.
That's interesting.
But I'm not sure,
We have to look that up. But the funny thing that you bring that up, because it's so weird, because like, where's the disconnect? And that's the thing, like, we were so unified. We have African proverbs like, I am because we are. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, all the community that we had, and we don't have it anymore. And I don't know what we're doing to really work at getting it, but I'm so concerned. I feel like Cicely Tyson in the movie with Tyler Perry, like, where did it go? And how do we get it back? Yeah. How do we start to love one another, right? If you don't love yourself, it's impossible to give what I don't have. Like, if I don't have money in the bank, I can't give you anything, right? If I don't have that self-esteem, and Dr. Joy DeGruy talks about vacant esteem, right? Like, we don't have those things. So maybe that's why a man can leave his family or whatever the situation is and not take care of his kid, because there's something within him. And I think that everybody needs to come together. It was wonderful to see every country, Japan, and people protesting about what's happening here.
I was like,
there's never been a time
in Europe. Like, what the heck is going on?
Never been a time where we have gotten together on that. And a lot of Caucasians don't like it. Right. And I doesn't understand what's going on. And I think it's a conversation really between all nationalities. Right. But I think even within the Black community, we still need to address it. Yeah. But, I just had a thought. You talked about why they're so fearful, whatever. I had a federal agent come talk to my African-American psychology class. Okay. And one thing that he shared was that police officers die mostly when they pull somebody over. That's how most officers pass away. Oh, okay. Right? And so he said they have like a little app or something or a ding that they get when a police officer died. And he did explain that most officers die when they pull someone over. So I don't know if that what leads to the fear, but it's still African Americans are disproportionately killed over any other race. Right. And so that's something to think about. But I just think that we need to find some way to do. We need to do training. We need to work together. And they have to understand our frustration, our hurt, our pain, right? And our pain comes out in different ways, right? Because everybody copes differently, right? And so what do you do when you've been trying all these years? And change still hasn't come.
Oh my gosh. Right.
Because we've been singing that song, the changes.
I was just thinking that. We've been singing that doggone song, and where is the change? Okay, right? But one thing I can say that I do appreciate is I feel like I'm seeing change.
Yes.
Even concerning Black Lives Matter, I feel like they've made waves in a lot of different areas. Also with the Breonna Taylor case. They've made change where she lives at, and so I'm appreciating that, there are changes happening right now, even though it might not be in your state yet. It's coming, hopefully it's not coming from the death of someone, but hopefully we can have a uniform situation happening across the nation. Right. Because, what I'm also finding is that we, as the U.S., I would say we're probably worse on racism, but racism is everywhere.
It is.
Yeah.
Right? Classism, sexism, all of that. It's everywhere. And like you said, like in New York, they have made the chokehold illegal now. Right. So they can't do that. So change is coming. That's one thing about God. Like, things might not always happen the way we want them to and how fast we are. But it's exposure because we do have phones and now people are recording. Right. So now it's in the public eye a little bit more. So things are happening. People are arrested. They are in jail. Right. But but sometimes it seems like, okay, yeah, he's arrested in jail. But then we have another person that gets shot 7 times.
Oh my gosh.
In front of his kids.
Oh my gosh.
Without a weapon.
You would think that they would be so on guard as far as like the mistakes. Mm-hmm. We're going to call them mistakes. You would think that they would be so on guard because of what has taken place. Because of what has taken place thus far. Right. Get my words together. But I was like, Lord, like, what is this? Like that we're seeing these things on video. You got people protesting over here, laws being changed over here. Things are happening. We've got a momentum going and they're still doing it. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm amazed at that. And I really think that, on a spiritual note, I feel like it's a spirit of pride over our policing. Mm-hmm.
Over this country.
Well, over this country, absolutely. But to be in the midst of a situation happening and that you're not going to, I'm going to show you, you're not going to show me. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that ends up in murder, and you can tell even like, it's a demonic spirit over them when this stuff is happening. It's irrational thinking. Like you're thinking, I'm going to kill this person, and I rarely think it's about fear. Yeah, that's just my personal thoughts.
And we definitely.
It's almost like you're not going to make me chase you. I ain't chasing you. Right. I'm going to just kill you.
Because I can't believe that in a rule book, if you're arresting somebody and they're running away, that you shoot them as a first response.
Right.
I don't want to believe that.
I don't know.
Because I'm like...
It's got to be. It's happening over and over and over again.
I don't know. Like,
in different states.
It is.
So it's not like it's one state that we keep seeing. It's like this state over here and this state over here. So you're wondering what in the world are they being taught? I don't know. But...
it's heavy. It's hard. It's hard.
It is.
It's hard. It's hard. Especially when you have kids. I don't have kids yet. But you have kids and you have 3 boys.
Yeah.
Right. One out the home, right? That drives around, goes to work, travels, does all these things, right?
Yeah.
You do. I have older nephews. I have a nephew in Florida. I have nephews in New York. Just like I have cousins and uncles and people around. So it's like, it's not a fear. Like I'm not fearful for their lives, but it is a concern. That's a real one, right? So I am definitely praying and I am thankful to God that He has definitely covered and protected my family.
Yeah.
Right. And I pray for those who have lost loved ones to police brutality, to all of those things, because I'm covering them, because protection and a covering needs to happen. And so one thing that I'm seeing too is that we are probably praying more than we've ever prayed.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And one thing about God, He gives you opportunities to pray.
Yeah.
Opportunities to intercede. So prayer is very powerful. And I remember having a conversation and they like, prayer doesn't work. And I'm like, it does work because things are changing, right?
Right.
It took a long time.
They're just not changing fast enough.
But we had to uproot years and years and centuries of this stuff.
Right.
That doesn't happen with one prayer.
Right.
For 5 prayers.
Right.
A year of praying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? From uprooting it. And so we have to realize we still need to be unified. We still need to work together. You know, so one thing I've done is learned about policing, learned about the unions. Mm-hmm. Learn about how I can fight on a state level and a local level to get those laws changed that protects them when they make a mistake.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think I would like to speak to, you're bringing up prayer. I would like to speak to parents out there who, we're Christians, who are praying for their children. Yeah. I have 3 sons. I don't pray in fear. Mm-hmm. I pray in confidence that God is going to cover my children, especially with my son moving out. Now I have no idea when he's leaving the house,
when,
he's coming in the house. You know, I don't know what's going on with him, but I just every day just really praying and covering him and asking God to keep his angels camped around him. And if there's somewhere that my son doesn't even need to go, then he will just won't even feel like going no more. Won't. You know, so you know, we have to pray in confidence that, you know, God is going to cover our children. And I'm not saying that when things happen, that's not God covering them.
Right.
I'm not saying that at all. And that's a whole nother subject.
The challenges come to everyone.
Challenges come to everyone. The Bible says it rains on the just and the unjust, and the sun shines on the just and the unjust.
Right.
And so bad things are going to happen to good people, and good things are going to happen to bad people sometimes.
And bad things happen to bad people, right?
Right.
We shouldn't, right. We shouldn't lose faith. We shouldn't lose hope.
Yeah.
We should still continue to work together, to think about, you know, all that our ancestors did, and Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth, you know, all of them that fought and died for us to even be where we are today.
Yes.
We cannot lose hope. We cannot give up. And I think, yes, we ought to pray, but faith without works is dead.
Absolutely.
So I have got to do something too with my faith. I am believing God that things are going to change, but I also need to get involved.
That's right.
And I think I told people that too. Like, don't call me about your concerns and your frustrations if you don't intend to be a part of the fight.
Right.
Because your silence says a lot.
And, you know, to speak to someone who says, you know, I'm really not about that protest life. I'm not trying to be out there protesting. You know what I'm saying? There are so many things that you can do.
Right.
That's not out in the streets. You know, you can sign petitions. Change.org is one of the places where you can go, where they have like all these petitions going. You can sign a petition. You can send $5 or $5,000 or whatever the case. But Google.
Right. Get involved locally. Go to the town hall meetings.
That's right.
Understand when they're voting on bills and laws. Be a part of that.
Know what those bills and laws are.
So even if you know, you can pray about them, but you can get involved. We can educate each other. Like there's so many things to do, but to do nothing makes you a part of the problem as well.
Right. You're right.
To do nothing.
Yes.
To sit, to be quiet, to be silent.
Right.
Right?
So we will not be silent.
No, we will not be silent. I'm thinking about a quote, and then we'll close. And I'm probably gonna misquote it, but it talked about Martin Luther King said it. I don't only remember the voices of those who fought hard, but I also remember the voices of, I'm messing it all up. I'm sorry.
Say it again.
So let me get it together.
Okay.
So I don't always only remember the voices of my enemies, but also the voices of my friends, but the ones who were silent.
Yeah.
And that's probably still not the right way.
I know which way you're talking about. Though.
Right. But you don't remember the voices of just your enemies who are screaming loud, but of your friends who are quiet.
Right.
Right. Where were you in that fight? Right. And that's what I mean, like rallying around and really being a part of it. So, you know, what we intend to talk more about it. We're going to do something specifically probably on systematic racism and just get into digging the deep and into the Constitution. But just like, a smaller snippet about what's going on, how we feel, to give you a little bit of history, but things you can do to move forward.
Absolutely. So we just want to thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
We really appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, and share. And I'm Connie.
And I'm Connie.
And we are Bad News Travels Fast.